Hey, what is happening, you mucus munching Mew? So I get asked all the time, what are the best decks right now? What did well at this tournament? What won that tournament? And where can I find the deck lists? And of course, the best answer to that is my YouTube channel. But the second best answer is LimitlessTCG.com. So I'm sure a lot of you know about the site and use it pretty frequently, but I'm sure a lot of you don't. And even if you do, I'm sure there's some really cool stuff on here that you don't know about yet. So I'm going to show you just how to find the best performing Pokemon TCG deck lists and a bunch of other stuff that you can do on this site in today's video. So let's go ahead and let's get into it. So this is the homepage for LimitlessTCG.com. There'll be a link, of course, in the description to take you over there so you can check it out yourselves. And as you scroll down, we can see the most recent tournaments that have happened. We'll be looking at those shortly, and then the upcoming tournaments as well as the newest card sets as well. So let's go back up to the top real fast. And first, we're going to take a look at the best performing Pokemon TCG deck. So we go over to tournaments, and that'll immediately show us with this filter on here, past 6 months, the past 6 months of most recent Pokemon TCG tournaments. So let's go ahead and let's take a look at the Sao Paulo regional that just happened the other day. And we can see here, only have 2 of the deck lists available. You know, all the archetypes for the top 8 and all the players from the top 8. So let's go look at a tournament that has a little bit more information on it. The information for this tournament will eventually get filled out. If you even look at like the Portland Regional Championship that happened as well, mostly filled out, the top 8 is, and I'm sure we'll get most, if not all, of day 2 eventually as well. So let's go to a little bit older of a tournament, EUIC 2023, and sometimes the tournaments get filled out almost instantly. Sometimes it takes a little bit longer. I'm not sure the full process behind that, but if we go to EUIC 2023, won by Alex Szymanski, you can see all of day 2 players, decks, and deck lists are all filled out here. That is a lot of information to potentially look through. All 158 players are right here. So from here, you can be like, okay, I want to take a look at the winning list. Alex Szymanski's Arceus Duraludon deck. All right, let's click on the list and let's take a look at it. Here, you can see the rough price of the deck, the actual deck list here in text form. At the bottom, you'll be able to see who else played the deck and how they finished, which is a super cool feature as well. You can really get to understand the actual success of the deck. And then on the other side, we'll be able to go copy to clipboard, which allows you to then import the deck directly into PTCG Live and just start playing with it right there. Print proxies. I haven't printed proxies in years, but I assume if you click this, you'll be able to print all the cards in the deck potentially, and then open as image, which allows you to view the deck in an image, which is a lot more digestible to kind of see what's going on in the deck than looking at it in text form. And that's it. That is how you look at the top performing decks in the Pokemon TCG from all of the recent tournaments. Let's talk about some other cool stuff on the site though, because Limitless TCG is an amazing site with a bunch of other stuff besides just deck lists. You can also just take a look at how some of your favorite players are performing. Let's go over to Pablo, who recently got 3rd place at EUIC, and you see here you can check out all of Pablo's recent accomplishments in major tournaments that they've attended. And from here, let's say we want to take a look at Pablo's Lost Raid box deck. I know it's a little bit outdated, but just for an example here, we can click here, go to the list, and once again, you can see who else played the deck, how they did, even in other tournaments. So Pablo played this 60 at San Diego, but we see at Liverpool, Brennan and Kiernan also finished pretty well, 10th and 50th. And once again, copy to clipboard, immediately import it into PTCG Live to start playing with it, and then open as image. Once again, a little bit more digestible to see what's going on in the list than reading the text. Go to open as image and take a look at the image of the deck as well. One last thing we're going to take a look at in the tournament section is, let's say we want to take a little bit deeper of a dive into Liverpool Regional. So we can head over there from this page by clicking this right here. Now we're taking a look at the Liverpool Regional Championships, and let's say we want to know a little bit more about the statistics behind the tournament. Well, we can click on the statistics tab right here, and then we'll take a look at how many of each deck there was in day 2, how many limitless points each deck accrued. Once again, talk about that a little bit more a little bit later in the video, and we can really see a little bit better breakdown of you know, each deck in the tournament, how much there was, and kind of how they did based on, you know, the limitless points. We can even see here there was 7 Reggie decks in day 2, but they only accrued 38 limitless points, where there was only 3 Hisuian Goodra decks that got 40 limitless points. So it had a better showing overall for how many there was in day 2. Another cool tab over here, if you really want to deep dive into a certain deck specifically, you can take a look at cards. And instead of taking a look at every list individually to try and figure out what were the cool tech cards that people were potentially playing, you can click on cards here and then select a specific deck. Deck type that you want to take a look at. So we're going to take a look at Lugia Archeops on the top here, and then this will show you every single card that was played in every single Lugia Archeops deck at that tournament. So if anyone was playing anything like a cool tech card here, like we can look down here at some of the cards that were more played of, it probably a a 1 of count. There was people playing Tool Jammer, Lost City. I said maybe a 2 of count Switch. There was probably a 1 of Tool Scrapper. It looks like it was probably a 1 of Furisod Girl was a 1 of as well. And you can even go a little bit further than that, and we can click on the Furisod Girl, go to the page with it, and we can take a look at its recent placements in major tournaments. And we see Christian here, the one who played it at Liverpool Regionals, got 45th, also got 9th at the Utrecht special event, playing Lugia Archeops with the Furisod Girl. Anthony Perez, 47th at Arlington Regional Champions. So you can kind of try and see how good this card potentially could be based on the placements of it in people playing in the tournament. Now, if it's like a really far out there tech card, you probably don't want to read into this data too much, and gonna kind of want to work off your own testing as a decision on whether or not you want to play the card. But this can give you a little bit more to work with to potentially back the potential of wanting to test out a card, a tech, an idea, whatever. You can look at some of the more basic stuff like this, like 3.9 Archeops. So someone out there for some reason was not playing 4 Archeops in their Lugia deck. I don't think anyone knows why, but for some reason someone was choosing not to. Some people were playing 4 Lugia V, most weren't. Some were playing 2 Lugia V-Star, but it looks like most were playing 3, so on and so forth. So this is a really cool way to take a deep dive into what were the cool tech cards for the tournament, what were people playing. And from there, let's go ahead and take a look at decks. And this is where you can kind of take a look at the meta in a little bit of more of a broader scope, not just at a specific tournament, but you can set a filter here. Right here, it says like the time past 3 months. Let's narrow that down a little bit because we did just have a new set released recently. Let's go with time to past month, apply selection. Lugia is still number 1 up there, 458 limitless points, and I'll talk about those a little bit more in the future. But yeah, in the past month, Lugia has been 19.79% of the metas of day 2s, and it has acquired 458 limitless points. Lost Zone Box not too far behind, but there's a little bit of a drop off then from Guardi to Gudra in the past month. But a bunch of different filters you can utilize here to get specific information if you want. So a really cool tool as well to get a little bit broader scope of the meta. Over to cards, you can do an advanced search to look for a specific card with the specific attributes tied to it. This can be super useful to find like specific cards for like niche situations. A lot of tools out there besides just the Limitless site that have this, like PKM and cards.com has a similar tool. This one looks a little bit cleaner though, a little bit nicer, so I do like this one. And then from there, the other tool that I'll mention here under cards is the translations section, where you can take a look at future sets coming up, the new cards, and you can look at the translated versions of those. So this is what? This is Clay Burst. I'm not sure when this is actually going to drop for us. June, we'll get most of these cards on June 9th in our Paldea Evolved set. So you can look at them in the Japanese form of the card, or you can go to the translated versions of them, which probably makes most sense for most people who are watching this video. Up next, we have the tools section. The proxy printer, of course, we talked about that already. There's the Swiss calculator. I'm not going to go too in-depth on this, but this basically allows you to simulate a tournament of equal size to the tournament you're playing in to roughly see how many match points you would need to achieve a certain placement. So this is a tool that you can utilize to know if you will be able to make top 8 in your next round if you were to ID or lose or tie, or ID is tying, win or lose or tie. This would help you determine which of those outcomes you'll be fine with. So if you're going into the round and you're like, I don't know if IDing is correct, or I don't know if I'll get top 8 if I ID, you could possibly use something like this. Of course, it is just kind of an estimation and shouldn't always be taken with 100% accuracy, but you could use a tool like this to roughly estimate if you should ID your next round to maybe get top 8, or if you should play it out to try and get the win. So I'm not going to go too in depth on this, not going to show an example of it, but that's how you roughly use this. I'm actually not 100% sure how to utilize this to its best efficiency either, so I'm not the person to ask on this one. We got the image generator. So this allows you to create an image of a deck list. So instead of taking a deck list and importing it into PTCG Live, you could export a deck from PTCG Live and then import it here into the image generator. I like to use default art for each card, and then we submit it, and then all of a sudden we have an image. It looks like they lost the Archeops on the way over. But now we have an almost 60 card image of a Lugia deck that I can then open as a PNG file, and then boom, there it is. I can right click it, save image as, and then from there I can share the image on Twitter or with a friend or whatever, and once again it's in a more digestible form than like the text, so it's a really nice tool to have as well. The last couple of tools we'll take a look at is the draw calculator, which can help you determine what is the percent outcome to open up with your good Pokemon that you want to start with versus the bad starters, and help you determine maybe you don't want to play that second or third Luminion in your deck if you're going to open with it that often. The last tool to take a look at under tools is the tabletop simulator, which is a simulator of the Pokemon TCG in tabletop form. Let's allow you to import a list into the tabletop simulator and then be able to basically simulate a game of Pokemon through it. And there's a bunch of hotkeys. I don't know all the hotkeys very well, but I'm sure once you get a hang of it, you'll be able to utilize it just fine. And the cool thing that you can do with this, besides just simulating a game of Pokemon and kind of just like drawing through opening hands or something like that, is you can also use this to test. You and a testing partner could get in a Discord call, share your screens of Tabletop Simulator, and then go back and forth and basically play a game of Pokemon, an effective game of Pokemon on Tabletop Simulator. So a whole new way to test and play the Pokemon TCG if you don't have all the cards on like PTCG Live, or you can't afford to spend the time to go meet up with someone to actually test. It's not efficient for you. Then Tabletop Simulator is a new way that you can utilize to test games of Pokemon or the Pokemon TCG on LimitlessTCG.com. The next thing we'll take a look at is the rankings page here. We're able to say all the top performing Pokemon TCG players based on Limitless points. So I don't really 100% know how Limitless points are calculated, but depending on how players place in major tournaments, if they win the tournament, top 8, top 16, top 32, they get points. Of course, the better the placement, the more points you get. And that was the kind of also the Limitless points that we saw with the deck. So we saw that the Lugia deck had 458 Limitless points, I think. So players have accrued that many Limitless points with Lugia decks in the past month is what we were looking at when we were looking at decks. And here you can see the top players in the game overall and how many Limitless points they have accrued throughout the past 12 months. Up next, there is the blog. Now, this doesn't get updated too often, but we do see some posts sometimes here, mostly from Robin Schultz. Of course, Robin Schultz is one of the most brilliant minds in the game. So even if these blog posts don't happen that often, they're definitely always worth the read because, I mean, they're written by Robin Schultz. And the last thing to take a look at is the play button up here, which takes you over to Limitless's other site, play.limitlessTCG.com, where you can play tournaments in the Pokemon TCG and a bunch of other different games. I'm actually going to try and come out with a video next week explaining actually how to use the site to play in these tournaments. But it's really not that complicated to figure out. So if you want to jump into it right now, go over to play.limitlesstcg.com. I'll also have a link for that site in the description below. But I will be coming out with a video next week, hopefully by next week, informing you all how to utilize this site to play in Unity. And hopefully you guys will be utilizing these sites as much as I do to keep up with the competitive Pokemon TCG meta, top performing decks, tournaments, and everything else like that. If you think I missed anything, or if you have a question about anything else that you saw on the site that I didn't quite go in depth enough and you quite don't understand, or you want me to explain a little bit further, leave a comment in the comment section down below, and I'll catch you all in the next video. Peace.